Greetings, I am Lies.
And I am Scandal.
And let's play a game together.
Yes.
Look at all of them on the screen all at once.
Yes, it's beautiful.
I love how there's this sort of like, they're trying to give them depth between them, but it's hard to tell who's closer and further away.
Uh-huh.
But like, Monica is supposed to be completely in the front, but at the same time, it's hard to tell. Anyway, so we did go and look things up. If you're coming from the last episode, we are not insane. This is the same day where we went to go get poster supplies and where we had the juice bottle incident, if you
Yes.
will.
And
So-
also Sayori doing the slam poetry, and yeah,
all of
we
it.
literally just found out. So this is especially bizarre.
So, unless Sayori's been working on posters, but they're also starting about talking posters, which started talking about posters, which would be new and other more posters, but they've never mentioned the previous posters. Like, we're lost here. So both of us are kind of wondering if maybe the game's meant to be fragmenting, since Monica mentioned saving and loading.
Uh-huh.
Like if maybe it's going into like an off kind of a thing.
And we're talking about off the game, like
Which
we
we
played
played on our channel. Yeah, I was just saying, and where it starts getting fragmented because you did something that sent it into disarray. But other than that, it just feels like really weird writing, because they're like, we need to make posters for the event, and she's been working on posters for the event.
And you're like, what?
Yeah, so I'm a little...
We were just sharing poems.
I say, unless I missed something somewhere else.
And especially we're Natsuki going,
As
have
well?
you been putting them up all over the school? And it's like, we
When?
just got here. My dude. What? Like,
So-
it makes literally no sense. Anyway, so let's go ahead.
All right. It's to inspire them to find the same feelings that brought you here in the first place.
To inspire them?
You know, to bribe them and coerce them.
Uh-huh.
Like the true heart of literature. I know you do. I know we all do. We just feel that beating heart of literature beneath the floorboards where we buried it. I mean, behind the wall in the cellar. I mean, in the books where it's stored. And if all it takes is standing in front of the room for 2 minutes and reciting a poem, which I'm not going to say has to be your poem now, then I know you can do it. I also assume that we're promoting a poetry in this room where people have to come to see it rather than like in a big, you know, sort of open space where people could walk in or out kind of thing or pass by.
Natsuki and Yuri remain silent.
But make distressed noises. Distressed, or like silent and distressed.
Distressed gay noises.
Oh God.
Sayori looks worried. I guess that leaves me no choice. I agree.
This conversation will go on so much longer and be so much more stupid if I do not agree to read out loud. And besides, I can read out loud.
I read the words on the page.
That is like what you did, Sayori, right? The interpretive thing with the words.
With the dance and the theater? No, it's not theater. It's theater.
With your poetry theater, it's not classic theater or storytime theater. It's poetry theater.
I agree. I don't think it's too much to ask. You
Most
all
of
should
you.
be more responsible and better than that, but I will set an example because I fucking hate you all.
Because most of you are just weak.
Weak! Bitches! I
on.
think that Sayori and Monica have been trying really hard to get new members.
And I'm now going to suggest that the other two have not been pulling their weight in this club.
Or potentially, if you get new members, I will leave.
And I can leave. That'd be amazing.
People will replace me, and you all can burn in hell without me. I mean, the least we can do is help them out a little bit. Well, maybe, but... It looks like Natsuki doesn't have any arguments left, because clearly I am the belle of the ball.
And stage fright is invalid, so go home because you are weak.
Yeah, you just don't want to do it. That's all it is.
Entering the room with, you know, their poetry in hand. That song, Pussy Boy, just get out my way.
That is so bad. I love it.
Kicking the other members of the club out of the way. I'm gonna go read it. Excuse me, I'm gay. I goes and reads poetry.
Okay, fine. I guess I'll just have to get it over with.
right. You just getting it over with and suffering and doing it scared. Some people say just do it scared. I think that's somebody who's famous, but I don't know. Anyway, just do it scared and suffer in front of all of us for the good of the club. Yay!
Yay!
Phew. That's thanks, Natsuki.
That's Natsuki.
That's Natsuki for you.
Ah, congratulations.
Suffering in front of everyone. Oh, what about you, Yuri? I love how Monica continues to look at you the entire time she's speaking to other people, but the other two are looking away and being more emotive and stuff like that. So there's this level of her just standing there, stoically, deadpan smile, customer service smile, staring straight at you while she goes, Monica, where she goes, Natsuki, Yuri, doesn't look at them, doesn't gesture towards them. He has that weighted voice.
I really wish somebody would actually interact with that in terms of a game.
Rather just turn their head and look at each other. You know what? Didn't they do that? They did that in Play Me Like You Love Me. They would talk to the character of their interest while you were, but you weren't a main character.
I don't.
Because your character was on the screen, so
Right.
they would all look at each other instead
Right.
of looking at you, the audience. They were mostly looking at each other.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
And
I'm
I liked that. Honestly, in Play Me Like You Love Me, I thought that was very, very charming, especially the love interests, which aren't your love interests, and your main character is on screen in front of you. They all looked at each other when they were talking to each other. And I didn't think about it that much, but I love that convention, and it shouldn't be that hard to have they're looking at you, the player, or your assumed, stand-in when you're playing, and when they're talking to another person, they just look at that person.
Yeah, it would convey a few more things much better.
Mm-hmm.
Yuri dejectedly glances around at everyone else's expectant faces.
Is that what expectant faces look like?
They really don't look expectant. I mean, Natsuki's kind of like,
The three faces, that is what expectance looks like.
you
The
guys-
blushing overwhelm.
the picture of expectation.
Yes! Now we have, from Miner's girlfriend, a picture of sadness, and now we have a picture of expectation.
Perfect.
Perfect. Done. On my wall. All right. I guess I don't really have a choice. Peer pressure's very powerful, after all, and I don't want to be ostracized from the club or from your group in any way, and if I say no, I'll be the bad guy, so, I guess it's yes.
Great.
That's everyone! I don't care how uncomfortable any of this is, I just want us all to be doing something together! That's why I like you so much, Splat, because it doesn't matter if things are uncomfortable, I just like us to be together.
Yep, and force everyone to get along and be involved with each other, because otherwise, yes, you will sit there and wait for them, and wait for them, and wait for them. And if they don't crack soon, well, you'll just keep waiting. Oh, what was it? Did I miss a thing?
It was something like, thank you, Yuri!
I think so.
I'm pretty sure. It's
Sorry,
okay.
I was like, boink!
I hadn't read it yet, so it's...
You're the best,
It's
Yuri.
you're the best. Pardon us.
I bet.
We need to check our script. Just check your
Script. All right, here we go.
Thank you, Yuri. This club is seriously going to be the death of me, and that's definitely not foreshadowing, I promise. Oh, gosh, you'll be fine, Yuri. You know what, as the person who has instructed them to save and load their game, you know what, I'm just sure they'll end up with you being just fine. But anyway, let's move on to the main event, which clearly wasn't the poetry reading. I want each of you to choose a poem of yours. We're back to poems of yours, because this isn't mortifying enough if you just read like a poem or a classical poem or someone else's poem. It has to be one of your poems. So if you only have the, 3 you've written or 2 you've written, then that's it.
That should
You
be
just have to
really
pick
easy.
one of those. Just flip a coin,
Hi. With 2 or 3 poems?
Well, if there's only 2, and then if it's 3, you could...
Why don't you freaking read a passage out of, like, a literature book rather than a poetry thingy?
But I mean, we've pretty much decided that this literature club is embodied by poetry. That's what everyone seems interested in based on their participation. Let's just ignore any, sort of disorganization or potential, peer pressure coercion.
Or the fact that you were the one who set up this event for us to read poetry and not literature?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I do run the whole club. So even though I've given you very little direction, organization, or expectations, I think that it's appropriate that I organize events along with my vice president, who also knew what was happening. The fact that we don't need to communicate with you. Buy-in isn't important, just obedience in a management structure.
Great.
Oh my god, I can't even say that with the same face.
That was really bad. Anyway.
It was so good, actually. In the really bad.
No, bad in
No,
that
was
way.
so
Going,
bad.
that was really
Oh my
bad.
god. So, by the way, I have some opinions about how leadership should work, and if you've watched our other Let's Plays, I have gone off on them, and ooh boy. All right, so, we're going to practice reciting them in front of each other first to make it even more mortifying. I mean, so we can get comfortable with all those feelings and expressing and public speaking, which is one of your most important traits as an adult. And by that I mean, you don't have to ever use it if you don't want to, except that people are going to try and shove you into it if, it's convenient for them.
Great. No way!
Monica, this is too sudden. Right now, the club's practically out of time. It's almost time to go home. I mean, getting the supplies, and they took a long time to get them, and you showing up late, and the meeting not starting until after that, and now reading all of our, sharing our poems to read with each other, and not all of us read the fastest, looking at whoever it is that she's judging. Well, if you can't recite your poem in front of the club, how do you expect to do it in front of strangers? Honestly, I hate that kind of logic. Because I want to say that sometimes when you have stage fright, you know how to manage your fright. Whatever your anxiety is, your particular personal anxiety, sometimes you know how to manage your own anxiety. And if you agree to something, even if you've been pushed into it under duress, you are able to find the best way to manage it for you. In the same way that people who still panic about and stress about phone calls are able to make them, kind of thing. Like they find a way that works for them, whether it's tricking themselves into it, whether it's putting it on a schedule, whether it's having a support system, whatever it is. And then if you go, okay, I've agreed to this thing, and then they go, well, to do that thing you've agreed to, you now need to follow my process that I've told you to do, is a really hard thing. So in some of the teaching that I've done, and this is informal teaching, like, volunteer teaching for like church and school groups,
right.
Not like official teaching.
Have you done like private lessons?
Yeah, I've done private lessons.
Yeah.
But you can hire anyone to do private lessons in the same way.
But that's still teaching.
Right. But anyone can give you financial advice. It doesn't mean they're a financial consultant. Anyone can teach. It doesn't mean they're a certified teacher.
Well, that's a good distinguisher. I'm just saying, like, you have also done
I have done
stuff.
real teaching, but I'm not a real teacher as a profession. Anyway, I've taught some kids with like autism, Asperger's, ADHD, that kind of thing. And the thing is a lot of them, when they're dealing with something that's stressful or challenging for them, and I'm not saying this is for all kids with that experience, but in my experience, is that if you get them to agree to do it, a lot of those kids are very reliable. They work on so many systems and deal with so much stress that once they agree to something, they're going to stick to it, provided they trust their leader or that the conditions don't change and overwhelm them, kind of thing. And so then saying, okay, now that you've agreed to it, here's a bunch of caveats you have to agree to, is one of the worst ways to allow those people to do well and be comfortable. In fact, an interesting sort of comparison to this is actually the what's the Barber movie?
Oh, Sweeney Todd.
Thank you, Sweeney Todd. So, and I'm not saying that anyone in that has any kind of neurodivergence. I have no idea. But anyway, so Tim Burton was casting for Sweeney Todd, the musical, and Johnny Depp was like, I'd love to play Sweeney Todd. And Tim Burton's like, can you sing? And he's like, sure. Sure. No one had ever heard him sing ever, right? And he's getting closer and closer to like actual like rehearsal kind of stuff, and still no one had ever heard him sing at all. 0 people involved in the project had ever. And he's like, occasionally Tim Burton would be like, so you're good with the singing thing, right? He's like, yeah, got it, no problem. And he didn't ever push him for it. And then when he showed up, he clearly practiced the lines, he'd practice his songs, and he sang. And the thing was that's clearly a working relationship where you understand the needs of the other person, and he didn't press him for it. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Right.
And then the sort of thing, you trust your actors, you trust your, your director kind of thing. If people volunteer to do something and they're a certain level of professional and you're familiar with them as a friend or a coworker, you just trust them and let them do it. Anyway, well, if you can't recite your poem in front of the club, how do you expect to do it in front of strangers? By choosing to? Oh, no. Don't worry. It all started off to help everyone feel a little more comfortable. I'll go first, and you all get the idea of what it's about, and none of you have to feel embarrassed. Can I go next? Of course you can. Of course. Now let's see.
Monica flicks through her notebook to a specific poem she has in mind for herself.
She doesn't know how many poems anybody else has, but she knows how many she has, and then Sayori has already picked one out, so this is fine.
Yep, absolutely. And then she stands behind the podium.
Here I stand behind the podium, about to read my poem.
Poetry.
The Cadence Fitz poem, I think. For what I
Yeah,
was thinking,
poem.
but that was it.
Yeah, okay.
The title of this poem is The Way They Fly. I'm just going to move this right along. No one has time to panic.
Monica begins reciting her poem. Her clear, confident voice fills the room.
We don't get to actually hear her poem?
I know, since we got Sayori's bit, I'm really surprised, actually.
Why? I was ready to read her damn poem.
Me too! More than that, her inflection is pristine.
You suddenly have a bunch of opinions about her being really good at this.
Especially considering I don't know what poems are.
Uh-huh.
She knows exactly how to apply emotion behind each line she recites, bringing the word to life. Is this something she's done before, or is she simply a natural? I glance around me. Everyone has their eyes on Monica.
Just like a good leader.
Yeah, exactly. Sayori looks amazed. Yuri has an intense expression on her face that I don't understand. Finally, Monica finishes the recitation. Except for the fact that Natsuki isn't included at all.
Yeah, Natsuki didn't exist during this. Or you found... You know what's funny? I would have found it more believable if Splat skipped commenting on Sayori than on Natsuki. Because Splat is seriously irritated with Sayori. And while it can make you absolutely, engage with them and notice them at every time,
right?
If you're gonna skip someone, why not skip the person you're annoyed with?
Right?
Hey.
Hey, the four of us applaud. Clap, 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 clap. Encore, encore. Monica takes a breath and smiles.
That was so good, Monica. I think you just scared the pants right off of all of us, and now we're never going to be able to perform at all without terror in our hearts that we will never meet your standard.
Sayori.
It was amazing.
Nobody's wearing pants anyway.
Oh, well, see, I told you they're scared right off, didn't I?
Hate you.
Hey, but now we're just gonna have so much anxiety trying to live up to that amazing example. God, it fuels me. I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you very much. I was just hoping to set a good example. Are you ready to go next, Sayori? I'll go next. What? Yuri's fired up all of a sudden.
Yuri clutches a sheet of paper between her hands and stands up.
Shoop! Really fast. Poink!
Keeping her head down, she walks quickly over to the podium.
Sure. This poem is called...
Yuri anxiously glances at each of us.
You can do it, Yuri! It's called After Image of a Crimson Eye.
Yuri's voice shakes as she starts reading the poem. Just a moment ago, she practically refused to do this. Why is she suddenly putting in so much effort? As Yuri gets past the first couple of lines, her voice changes. It's almost like what happens when Yuri gets absorbed into her books. Her quivering words transform into the sharp syllables of a fierce and confident woman.
Ah, yes, the real woman.
Ah, perfect. The poem is full of twists and turns in its structure that she enunciates with perfect timing.
She reads her version of, the Odyssey for 3 hours brilliantly.
Everybody. Whoa. Splat.
I got to sleep. Bye.
Perfect. Excellent. And I ate Twinkies while I was asleep. This must be a rare glimpse into the whirling fire Yuri keeps concealed inside her head.
I can tell that despite her being so calm and composed and demure and appropriate, she is a passionate monster inside her head, a real freak.
Suddenly, she's finished.
Huh.
Everyone is stunned, actually. Yuri snaps back into reality and glances around her as if she bewildered even herself.
I entered another plane of existence, and who are you?
Oh, perfect, actually.
I'm suddenly seriously feeling the vibes of Rena.
Right.
You must take your brain to other planes of existence.
It's actually up to me to save this situation now. I'm the first to start applauding. I just
starts just undulating their base on the ground.
Everyone joins me afterward, and we give Yuri the recognition she deserves.
As she starts crying.
It's not that we didn't want to applaud for her, but we were caught so off guard that we must have forgotten. As we applaud, Yuri holds the poem to her chest and rushes back into her seat.
I love how quickly she ran away. Foosh!
It's so cute.
Okay, that is still a convention I don't think I'm gonna get tired of. When the moving model matches what it says they're doing, it just adds a lot for me.
It does a lot. It does a lot for you, does it?
It does. I was super annoyed with Julian in the bath scene when we did that without it being censored. So if you haven't seen our Arcana run through, specifically the Julian route, there's cover-up art over the premium scene. But in the actual premium scene, you get to see him climb into the bathtub, which it says he does, and then he's sitting there in the bathtub in this really pretty art with his very beautiful light and this very, flattering, what have you. And then suddenly, pop, on the next scene, he's standing out of the bath again, but it talks about you guys still being in the bath, and we're just like, why didn't you just leave him in the bath if they're still in the bath? And then his character model's just standing there like Monica is, with, in front of the bath again, and we're like, did you get scared? Is there a bug in the water? What happened?
Why did you run away?
And I really like it when the character models, even if they're very simplified, even if there's no animation, just like frame movement, when they match up with the words, it makes me very happy.
Yes.
Right. Yuri, that was really good. Surprisingly good. I never expected you to be that good. Oh, that was really good.
Well, you know what? Monica can think it's really good
in the next one.
Hey! So thank you very much, guys, then, for joining us. If you like what we do, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and also share our videos if you're having a good time with us. Please also feel free to go check out our Ko-Fi and our Patreon. We've got some links in the description down below. And
yes!
I have been Scandal.
And I have been Lies. And it was
great playing with you. Bye!